Good evening. My name is Dr. Susan Feneck, and I am the CEO and founder of Juvenile Justice Impact. And tonight we have with us Erika Kimble, who is an anti-aging expert, a person you want to be best friends with, an entrepreneur, and a nurse practitioner. And tonight we're going to be talking about perseverance, strength, and how to get through life and never give up. And she's an incredible example of a person who wouldn't typically be able to overcome some of the challenges that she's faced. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us about yourself.
So I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, to a single mom, and my mom is like Polish-Irish German, so she's kind of like one of those very stoic women. It was like not so much the huggy, kissy atmosphere. So I was very independent growing up, kind of on my own. But we also, because I was with a single mom, and I had 3 older siblings who were out of the house, it's just not a lot of money, of course, so like poor neighborhood. Not the greatest place to raise a child for sure. There was a lot of drugs. There was a lot of, kids getting pregnant, teens, like 11, 12, 13, 14. That was the norm in my neighborhood. So I felt like I, would have been one of those statistics.
Sure.
Not had the strength to kind of move through everything like I did.
Were you ever tempted by using drugs in that atmosphere? Because I know a lot of kids, they just get, they have that peer pressure.
I can say that I wasn't really tempted because someone very close to me and my family lived in the same apartment building. We lived in Section 8 housing in Cleveland, Ohio. So I'll call her Maria, my family member. She was addicted to drugs. She was selling drugs. And eventually, I didn't know what was happening. I was probably like 10 or 11. Eventually, the DEA came, like, pounding on her door with one of those, like, big wooden, I don't even know what it is, but it's to, like, break down the door. Yeah. And I was, like, upstairs, and I'm watching all this occur. And they drag her out. They're, like, pulling her by her collar, hair all over, hot mess. I'd never seen her like that. They pulled her boyfriend out of there. And then she had a son who we ended up, my mom and I, taking in to take care of him. And when I learned that that was the result of drugs, I was, like, extremely careful all of my life. Because, it was to her detriment that happened, but her story is part of mine because I learned from that. Like,
sure.
I don't ever want to live like that
and
have that happen to me. And it was so hard on her children, like, watching that and, the repercussions that happened afterwards. And not only that, there was a family I babysat for in the neighborhood. One of my best friends had, like, 3 siblings that were, like, adorable, like, super young, cute. And I would just go over there because I didn't have any younger siblings and literally, like, take them out to the park and just to have fun because I just, like, adored them. And then one day I went over there to babysit, and they come out into the living room and they're like, look, and they're, like, showing me what they're eating. And they're scraping ice, like the frost, out of the freezer and, like, shoving it in their mouth. I'm like, why are you guys doing that? And I go look in the freezer, there's no food. I look in the fridge, there's, like, ketchup, mustard, there's a half-rotten cucumber. There are, like, pieces and parts in there. I'm like, I was shocked. Like, this was a mom who took amazing care of her kids. They were always, like, little cute Easter dresses and, so well done and organized. And I didn't know what was going on again. I was like, well, I'm not sure what's happening, but let me make the best of what I can find in here.
Sure.
So I ended up, like, cutting off, like, half of the rotten cucumber, and the rest that was good I chopped up and gave to all 3 of them. I think I found some, like, cereal grains in the pantry, but there was no milk. I had that for them, and, like, little pieces and parts of food because I was like, what do I give to them? And I didn't know what to do. I was too young, So I saw that too. That was part of my story of, why I've been so very careful. Even when I'm drinking, I'm like 2 to 3 drinks. I don't like to be out of control. And my mom was always like, when it came to the drug talk, she's like, you can do crack one time or cookie one time and you're addicted for the rest of your life. I'm like, along with everything else, right?
Yes, that's all it takes.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's what I saw at a young age. And you could go, two ways with that. You could normalize it and be like, well, everyone else is doing it, I'm going to do this. And I was like looking at it like, no way, the other direction. So.
Well, thank God you had that intuition.
Yeah.
That must have been so traumatic to experience that, and the fact that you were able to cut up a cucumber, find some grains of cereal. It's amazing how you can make something out of what sounds like almost nothing if you really have to.
Yeah.
And we're further going to hear more about her story, but you've done that with your life, right? I mean, you came from a Section 8 neighborhood, and now look at you. And she's got a great business and very successful. And how did you? What gave you the strength to go through your journey? Like, what was your journey from then to here? And I just think that it's so inspirational that, there's so many people that I feel that can really benefit from your story.
I mean, there's a lot of, we always debate nature versus nurture. Like, what was it? I think definitely at a young age, I was determined just to have more out of life, and I had dreams and goals that I was not going to let surpass me. Like, I used to look out the window at night, we're on the 3rd floor, and just look into the sky and be like, there's something so much better beyond this place. I know there is. And I would dream about California and the West Coast, coming out here. And I'm like, one day I'm going to make it out there. And then, my mom, when she grew up, she had 6 brothers, and, they did okay for, family in the neighborhoods we were in, but she only had college education. My brother was the first one who my mom didn't have a college education. She only had high school. My brother was the first one to have a college education. So he was the closest in age to me. I really looked up to him. He went to Kent State. He was a pilot. He became a chemical engineer. Oh, and finally I had someone, there's no one in the neighborhood. There's no one to look up to. And it's not like I had no celebrity. I was like, oh, wow, I want to be like them. It was my brother. It was he was intelligent, and he was kind, and he was loving, and he just was the most mellow person ever. And that's who I wanted to be like. And I'm like, if he can do it, I can do it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you have to have that person you can look up to in life, someone, whether maybe for some it may be a celebrity or an uncle or something like that. Someone you see on TV may be awe-inspiring for you to go towards that kind of life. Mm-hmm. So I was very studious in school. Other kids are getting in trouble. Some of my neighbors were caught stealing from CVS and went to juvie already. Mm-hmm. Others, of course, like I said, were pregnant early and dropped out of school. But I ended up getting a scholarship to a private high school. So I went to a Lutheran high school.
Nice.
And then we finally moved to a nicer neighborhood. And I was, 3.8 GPA. I got a full tuition scholarship to Ohio State University.
Nice.
So somehow, I didn't know how I was going to get through that. Everything, all the stars aligned, and I was able to make it to college, which was
that's awesome,
super amazing.
And you got there, and you're like, wow, I made it. I can do it. You know, it's incredible. I mean, I even look back at my, my path, and it's just wow. Again, just coming from people who either were educated or not educated, and you make this choice, right? And something just drives you, and you knew you had it, and you just went for it, and that's pretty awesome. I think that there's so many times that we might doubt ourselves, right? And then there's that other half. There's that other half superhero where you're like, I could do this.
Yeah. And I think too, especially for kids out there who are living in that same situation, maybe you are coming from a family who your mother's a drug addict, or, your parents aren't there, you have no help, no support. It's easy to go into gangs, drugs, whatever it is, and lose the life that you could have. I think the harder route, but the more long-term satisfaction and the stronger route would be actually avoiding those things that seem popular to do and going towards those things the route less traveled. Like having the strength to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, it's cool to join the gang. Yeah, it may be easy to join the gang. But the more powerful person is actually the person who goes against the grain. So that's like the biggest advice I would have for someone in that same situation, that find that strength inside of you, go against the grain, and like find your dreams and work towards them. Because you don't have to be in that situation. It's your choices.
And a lot of people don't know. I mean, you talk about gangs. It might be easy to get in them, but I'm telling you from my experience, from working in forensics for all those years, it's almost impossible. It's not impossible, almost. It's incredibly difficult to get out of them.
Oh, yeah.
Once you're in them. And just having the wherewithal to not go down the other side, you know, it really takes a lot of inner strength, and then you are guided along your path, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how in the world did you become an anti-aging expert? Because I want to know all the skin creams that you use. I want to know every tip you've got. Tell us all.
Actually, it happened so randomly, I feel like. So I started out, I became a nurse, graduated with my bachelor's, and I was working neonatal intensive care unit. So
right,
I love babies. Like
yeah.
I said, when I was, a kid, I even loved kids, and they're so adorable. But working in that unit was so stressful. And I think the first time I had a baby pass away on me, I was like, this is not my career. This is just not meant for me. Like, it was time to move on. So I applied to go back to school for my master's. And then I ended up getting another scholarship for a year of study.
Nice.
And it had already started some of my studies and got a lot of the extracurriculars, or the other classes out of the way. So I had all this time, and they wanted me to be full-time for the scholarship, and I'm like, well, what else can I do? Like, I have to have full-time classes. So I ended up doing a second master's in journalism and communications, because I figured, I'm like, one day I'm going to do health media. I'm going to talk about health and beauty and all this stuff, like, right? Like, I didn't know when, but I was like, yeah. So I did that, and when I got out, I was like, I want a happy field. I like where people, don't pass away on me, and when they walk out, they're smiling. And I was like, I'm going to do like dermatology aesthetics. So that's what I started out in, and then within derm, I started aesthetics, and then wellness, and 14 years of like doing all that and learning more and more. And like, this is the field I definitely love. It's a lot of fun. So when people walk out, they're happy, they're beautiful, they feel good. It's like positive atmosphere.
Oh, sure. There's nothing better than that feeling when you're leaving a spa. Your face feels brand new.
Yes.
You've got skincare line that actually is nourishing to your skin, and you know exactly what to give a person based on their skin tones and skin types. And I've been there, and it's like a miracle workshop.
It's fun. I mean, after being in derm for a while, I was like, what else can I do? My brain's like always going. I am ADD, so sometimes I'm like a mile a minute in my brain, but quiet on the outside. But I'm always thinking. So I was like, I think now I've like tried every skincare product out there for free, because they like would bring them in,
right.
and I'd be like, a little of this, a little of that, and I was like, I'm like, I'm going to make my own. So probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I started my own skincare line, because I was like, I'm going to make it more affordable, but with super great ingredients that everyone can have access to it. Like, so I had a lot of patients who are like veterans and Medicare even, and they're like, well, we want to look good too, but we can't afford these products. So.
They are. They can be very, very expensive. Even when you go to Walgreens and CVS, some of the lotions and potions they have there are locked up because they're so expensive.
Yes.
I'm like, all right, I'll take that eye cream. Maybe it's locked up for a reason. Maybe I should be. But so what's the best advice that you would give a youth? To never give up.
Never give up.
Stay true to your morals and values, what you feel inside, right?
Mm-hmm. Don't go with what you're seeing around you. Like, tune everything else out and really feel and know like who you are and who you want to be, and set that path for yourself and do not veer from it.
It is. It's and that's not easy. We could sit here and be like, go, stick with your goals. All right. But just to have the inner strength and, I look back at my education and initially I couldn't even believe I was even applied for going for the associate's degree back then. And then, get to the bachelor's and I was like, oh my goodness, because I just didn't think I could do it. I had a guidance counselor who told me I would never go to college, so I believed him. So I was like, I don't know if I'm meant to be here. He said I couldn't go, and, that's someone that you're supposed to be able to look up to, and someone who's supposed to be a mentor is like your guidance counselor, right? And when he's like, no, Susan, you're not going to college, and I was like, oh, okay. So every time because they were all taking the SATs, and I was like, geez, should I be taking this test? I didn't even know what it was called back then. I'm like, should I be taking this test that like everyone's taking? And he's like, no. I'm like, oh. Okay, so every time I went to like the associate's, bachelor's, master's, postgrad, every time I went, I kept thinking about him saying that I couldn't do it, but I was just like, I can, I think I can because I'm doing it, right? And so I was always self-doubting myself because I am. Isn't it crazy how like that one person?
But it motivated you to do the opposite.
Yeah.
Hey, let's look what I can do.
Yeah, and it's just my advice is always to never underestimate what you tell a person. Because look at that. He told me that when I was, a senior in high school. That's when they're taking all these tests, right, or 11th grade. And it stuck with me my entire life. Every single day I thought of that, him saying that to me. So think about how important it is to really recognize what you're saying to someone and how it's going to have an effect on them, whether it's your best friend, your family, friends, anyone you're working with, just a random person at the grocery store, and it really does, it does impact their life, so the fact that you're so inspiring and you have a voice, and I know that you said that you've spoken to youth in the past, and I'm sure that that is going to stay. There's always like that one seed, I call it planting seeds, and you plant this one seed, and it might not, say you were speaking to a youth, I don't know, say it was last week or whatever, and you're giving them an inspirational, having an inspirational conversation, telling them never to give up, and, it might not be the next day or the next week or the next month, or maybe not even the next year. It might just be, oh, wow. I remember Erika told me this, and it's planting seeds. And sometimes not all of them grow, but that one that's meant to grow does within a person. And, I look back at the people that have inspired me and people that maybe not have, and it goes both ways. Being told you couldn't do something, I think I can. It's just incredible how you could think about something a person said your whole life, and
it can be motivating.
Yeah, and then you were motivated kind of in the opposite way by having all of these challenges, and you stuck with it. I think that's just incredible. It really is, and I mean, you look at all of our friends that we're so close with, we all have a story, and everyone has a story. And you look at, if you look at some of all of our backgrounds, they're similar in a way because we've overcome so much, and clearly nothing was handed to us. And I think when that's the route that you take, that it makes you feel like you have the ownership, and you did it yourself. You chose to inspire yourself. You chose to keep going. You chose to continue into all these different avenues. And sometimes, I was thinking, I don't know if I'm ever going to use my teaching certification. Back then, I was just kind of going through, and some of my friends are like, oh, you've got all sorts of time to take that. And I was like, it's only one more semester. You don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you're right? I mean, so you've done kind of the same thing where you have an eclectic background, and so you can go into several different areas, or you use them all at once. Like you have the communications, and these different backgrounds in media, and And you need those kinds of backgrounds to, now you're promoting yourself, you're promoting your skincare line, you're promoting your business, and at the same time being a person, with a strong voice of entrepreneurship. She's also an entrepreneur, and just to be able to come forward and talk to youth and just adults. Sometimes, even adults, they lack that self-esteem or that self-awareness that something one day just clicks. Mm-hmm. And it might be from watching this podcast. It might be from just, learning from your background. And I just think that's really incredible.
I actually get messages on social media that's I'm just really surprised, because I guess I don't realize how many people are watching my journey, but they're younger women, young ladies who are I'm watching everything you're doing, and that's so amazing, and I'm I want to be like you, and I'm me? It's just always wow, there are people watching, but it also makes you accountable, okay, I better keep my everything stepped up and going in a good direction, because there are people looking up to you, even if you don't notice it.
Oh, 100%. We were looking just the other day of how many listeners we have. And first it started out at 500. This is one of the very first ones. Wow. And then it went up to 1,700. Then it went up to 2,000. And all these people are sharing, and I love it. The whole point of having this podcast is to have people on like yourself that are very inspiring and talk about social issues that are surrounding youth, and people are sharing it, and I just think that's great. So think of all the people that are going to hear your voice and everything that you've overcome. You're like, wow, that's pretty awesome, and they'll use that to, they could share it with someone who might need that extra boost of encouragement to hear your voice.
Mm-hmm. You could either have me or Cardi B. Which one do you pick?
Cardi B. Can have me or Cardi B?
I'd rather be the influence. If it's I look at my daughter now, and I'm the things she's watching and seeing, and I was please look up to Mama, emulate Mama,
yeah.
Because there's a lot of things she can choose to oh, that's cool, I want to be like that. But
mm-hmm.
I want you to be strong, fierce, intelligent, kind. Have all those qualities. So,
and that's important too. That's Cardi B. I was thinking of where'd that come from? But no, we in social media is so much different now than it was when we were kids, obviously.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot more to keep an eye on your kids for this day and age.
Yes. I learn a lot from them. I'm learning a lot about what they're seeing and what's influencing them. So I just want to make sure I'm a major part of what's influencing how they are, how they grow up.
Oh, sure. And she's a wonderful mom. And how old are your children?
They're 11 and 14.
11 and 14. So they're at that age where they really need an extra set of eyes, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they're so cute. They really are. Well, Erika, can you let the world know how they can get a hold of you, where they can buy your products, because we have, coming from an anti-aging expert, you're probably going to get flooded with calls, especially around the holidays, right? So let everyone know where they can find you, where they can buy your products, where they can come and see you at the office, if they want any treatments. What kind of treatments do you have? Oh, yeah, that's a good one. What kind of treatments do you have?
So I do, in anti-aging, I do Botox fillers, CO2 laser, PDO threads, bioidentical hormone therapy, weight loss. I do a variety of other things, but everything's on my website, www.theparasol, PARASOL companies.com. I'm also a brand ambassador, so I work for swimsuit, jewelry, clothing companies. You'll see a lot of that posted on my social media, which is a beautiful life _ ERIKANP. And you'll see a lot of my photos of aesthetics and earlobes that are cut off and put back together. Anything kind of gross and anything beautiful on my other IG site, which is going to be anti-aging NP _ or anti-aging expert actually _ Erika, ERIKA NP. and you'll find everything I do on there. I'm also working a little bit in California, some movie sets, doing some wellness and B12 therapy, some COVID testing, kind of a little bit of everything.
Nice, nice. And you could reach Juvenile Justice Impact at 888-JJI-0100, or you can visit us at www.impactjji.com, and you could also send us a message at juvenilejusticeimpact@gmail.com. And Erika has been a supporter for years now with her incredible products, and they always go first.
Everyone wants to look beautiful, right?
Right, everyone wants to be beautiful for sure.
Yes.
And she has she works with inner beauty and outer beauty, so wellness and nutrition, as well as outer beauty with all of those treatments that she just mentioned. And well, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else you would like to share or bring up, or?
I would just say, well, thanks for having me. But
Thank you for being here.
I guess at this point in my life, I'm hoping that I can give back a little bit and inspiring others. So hopefully when you're watching this and you need that inspiration of, how do you get through something, hopefully this kind of motivates you to, forge ahead, even through adversity, just keep going.
Keep going. Always believe in yourself and never give up. And I always say, be the change, and dreams do come true. Mm-hmm. They really do. I always say, if you have something that's on your mind and you have an idea of something that you want to do, then I fully believe 100% that came to you because you're capable of doing it.
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that.
So you want to write that down. Okay. Alrighty, well, thank you so much. And we'll love to have you back. And we could talk about, maybe I'll get some treatments and we could
right. Show off before and after.
Go through the before and after. Oh, Lord. But anyway, thank you so much. And thank you for being so inspiring and being a beautiful earth angel to so many people in our lives. And thank you for being such an incredible friend and just all over a great person. And we love you and can't wait to have you back.
Thank you.